Hi everyone, I'm Paul Gallagher, GFT Program Manager. Welcome to the first in a new series of Cinema Essentials Conversations. So Cinema Essentials is a new recurring season that we're planning to begin at some point in the future at GFT. We'll pick a genre or a certain style of films and present a series of films that we would call essential in that category. Either ideal starting points to get into that genre or just really excellent examples of it from the history of cinema. So until we have the chance to do this in the cinema, which hopefully, we are reopening GFT on the 31st of August. Very exciting. So Cinema Essentials in the cinema can be a real thing, hopefully, this year. But before we get a chance to put it on screens, we thought we could get started on the idea in a conversational form. And my hope is that we hear some suggestions from you, our audience, at the same time. So please, if you're watching, we'd love to hear your comments on any of the films that we talk about today and any of your own suggestions. Just add them in the comments section below. Also, I'd like to say thanks to BFI Film Feels Connected for their funding support for this series. They have a survey that they'd like you to fill in if you're watching, and we'd like you to fill it in too. It's linked in the description for this show. So after watching, if you could please take a minute to click and fill that in, we'd really appreciate it. Okay, so you'll have noticed that I am not alone. So joining me today to offer their perspectives are Glasgow Film Festival manager Debbie Aitken and screenwriter and director Raisah Ahmed. Welcome to Cinema Essentials.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
So today we're going to be talking about summer movies. So Debbie, Raisah, does it feel like summer?
Some days it does. Today, no.
No, not so much. I'm actually sitting next to a window just now, and I'm looking outside. It definitely does not have the summer feels. But I've put on a bright coloured dress because either way, I'm going to celebrate summer anyway. It depends, I suppose. I mean, summer's mostly an indoor sport, I think, in this country. So.
Well, that's the movies can take us there. And so by summer movies, we mean films set in the summertime, films that we think manage to perfectly capture some aspect of the season. So many great films throughout cinema history have done this, whether it's showing us characters overheating in boiling temperatures or basking in beautiful sunbathed scenarios. So if you've got a pick of your favorite, let us know in the comments and tell us why you think it's such a great summer movie, and we'll add them into our conversation a bit later. But before we get into our picks, we're going to talk briefly about a new film from this year that we think could become a future summer classic. It's Simon Bird's debut film, Days of the Bagnold Summer. So Debbie, start us off. This was one of your favorites when we played it at Glasgow Film Festival, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. It was one of my absolute favourites. So the film had its Scottish premiere at GFF this year. And I've only seen the film once. I haven't seen it since, and I'm really, really looking forward to watching it again. And as I said to you, Paul and Raisah, yesterday, my immediate reaction after watching this film was that I wanted to text my mum and apologise for being a teenager. And not just any teenager, but a really moody goth teenager as well. I felt like watching it, it was all a bit close to the bone. That really ungrateful, which I've got to say, Errol was just fantastic. He really, really played that part really well. And that whole relationship between him and Monica Dolan was just fantastic. It was so well written as well by Lisa Owen, who wrote the script for that one.
Yeah, that's right. Lisa Owen.
Really did. Loved the film.
So set it up for us, Raisah. Like Debbie's referred a little bit to some of the characters. What is the story here in Days of the Bagnold Summer?
It's a single mother and a son stuck together over summer when he thought he was going to Florida. It is Florida, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, it is. And it's these two people kind of forced together. Monica Dolan plays Sue so well. You can't imagine her as anyone else. You think she is Sue. And she's a little bit, she works in the library. She's very quiet, very nervous about everything. And you can tell that her son, Daniel, played by Earl Cave in his debut, is her life. He's her everything. And he just doesn't care. He just pushes her buttons. And you can tell that he's still struggling with this divorce, which happened a while ago. but he's quite resentful towards her when really that feeling should be going towards his dad. And you know, it's slice of life. It's us following them over 6 weeks, and we start at a moment where they're looking for shoes for a wedding, and we finish at the wedding. And the shoes they're really lovely because they symbolize what happens with the relationship throughout the film.
And Debbie, it's such a British summer film, isn't it? Like, I mean, this is the story, you know, you think summer movies, and we'll get into this a little bit, you think of sun, and you think of like the beaches in America, or you think of, we'll talk about more of these kind of summer movies in a bit, but this is so distinctly British, isn't it?
Oh God, absolutely. It's that summer where nothing really happens. And it's more about, you know, forced fun trips to the seaside where you get in the car and, you know, have to, you know, talk to your family and you really don't want to. I mean, it really is.
And it rains,
perfect.
right? It rains when they go to the beach, doesn't it? I mean, that's just,
It rains a lot, yeah. No, it is. It's a fantastic film.
And Raisah, it's based on a graphic novel, isn't it? And did you think, like, to me, I loved the look of it. I thought some of the shots could have been like panels from a comic, the way there's like this big, it's just so spacious and these frames. And I wondered if you sort of could see that connection.
Yeah, it felt like that at points, that you could see that's where the inspiration has come from. And I can just imagine where that comic book is sitting in a shop alongside what other comic books it's maybe sitting as well. And it feels like the tone has been lifted from those pages, very much so. And it's very understated in some ways. It's like, in many ways, nothing major happens. You know, there's no massive, big, dramatic thing that happens where your heart's jumping at your chest and you're worried. You just become really invested in this relationship. And it's really funny, Debbie, like when you're saying about apologizing to your mum. Like, if I think back, I very clearly recall a day where I was forced to go to Troon, I think. And I must have been like 17, and everyone was doing their thing. And I found a bench and I sat there with my notebook writing angry diary entries going, they forced me here. And I read it back now and I go, you were at the beach. What was wrong with you? But
I don't think you're alone. It's okay. We've all been forced to sit on a bench in Troon. You know,
but it's so reflective of that, isn't it? It's everyone could probably watch it and go, oh gosh, I was that kid at some point in my life.
Absolutely. I mean, I really hope that my mum's over it. I really, you know, she might be watching this just now. I don't know. Maybe let's not ask her to write a comic. It's been a long time waiting for her to type it. But I like to think that she's over it. But it was just such a sweet film. I really loved it, and I also really loved the soundtrack. I just felt like the choice of Belle and Sebastian was just like a perfect join for the film. It was just very, it just meshed together really well.
And
I really wanted to. Sorry, Paul.
Right, carry on, Raisah.
No, I was going to say I really wanted to hear Earl Cave sing, and I thought we were going to get that, and we didn't.
No.
Because what I was going to say was I love that it's Belle and Sebastian who've done the soundtrack to the film, but then the Daniel character, Earl Cave's character, is a lover of heavy metal. And so you get that clash of like the beautiful kind of bucolic Belle and Sebastian soundtrack, and then these shots of him cycling through empty suburbs with like heavy metal music, kind of quiet English suburb. Those kind of contrasts and those details, I guess, because you know you can remember being I don't know, it's a familiar experience, I think, to lots of British teenagers, like being, I'm in this place where nothing happens and I'm listening to this music to try and convince myself that I live in a movie, you know, or something like that, you know. Like,
I think there's some Metallica behind me right now from when I was a teenager, so absolutely.
Yes. So great. And I guess last question on this, guys, is do you think this is a film that will consider a summer classic in the future?
I'll go first. I would say
yes.
Yeah, I would say yes. I think that's because I really, really did identify with it. And it's got that really, you know, as Raisah said, like nothing really happens. But it's got a really good feel-good factor about it that you can watch about it, and you just can't help identifying to it. You just can't help thinking back to those teenage years where like you really couldn't do anything other than, you know, go to Troon and sit on the bench Be angry with the world.
No, I agree. I think it's absolutely a classic. And I think if people watch it now, that combined with what we're going through, where we're forced to be locked in and not be flying somewhere warm or going anywhere further afield, there'll be a resonance there that will kind of stay with you. I think it's of the moment in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. There's a comment here from Emma Denise. Love this film, though the relationship between a moody goth teenager and their mother was a little bit too relatable. Lol. Yeah, I think that's a common feeling for people watching this film. Okay, great. So, Days of the Bagnold Summer unfortunately skipped a major cinema release due to the lockdown. Ironic, considering the subject matter. But I would love to find a way to get it back on GFT screens at some point. So perhaps as part of a future summer movie season. For now, you can rent it online from BFI Player, Curzon, Amazon, Google Play, and many other places, which we recommend you do. And if you've seen it and have any thoughts to add, you can put them in the comments right now, or you can email us too at feedback@glasgowfilm.org, and we'll aim to share your thoughts on a future episode of Cinema Essentials. Okay, so if you've just joined us, we are here from GFT, Cinema Essentials, talking about essential summer movies. So now let's get to the meat of the chat. Which films do we think are the absolute essential summer movies? I set Debbie and Raisah and myself the challenge of each coming up with a personal top 3. And we also asked you for your picks in advance of this. And we had this great email in from Jason Golaup in Langside. Jason, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. He's got a great pick to start us off. So Debbie, could you read Jason's email out for us?
Yeah, of course. So Jason said, my favourite summer movie is Stand By Me. Excellent choice. I love the camaraderie of the kids, that bond of being young and having your own little gang that no adult could ever dream to penetrate. The innocence shines like an everlasting torch, overpowering the fact that they're actually on a journey to search for a dead body. It's a movie which has grown on me as I age, evoking memories of my own youth and the friends that I had. Those experiences you share are precious, and it's not until you're older that you can appreciate that. Although we see the actions unfold through Gordy's eyes, I believe that Chris Chambers, played by River Phoenix, is the star of Stand By Me. River Phoenix was hypnotic on screen, even at that age of his teens, and would have been the greatest actor of all time, if you ask me. I think that's definitely a fair comment, Jason.
Yeah, a great pick from Jason to start us off. And I particularly like what he said about it's a film that's grown on him as he ages. And I think as we get into our picks here, there's something about summer and childhood, I think, which I think is going to be reflected in our choices. So, Raisah, start us off. What is your number 3?
So my number 3, now this, firstly, it was really hard giving them a 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. So my number 3, I think would be Baji on the Beach, directed by Gurinder Chadha and written by both Gurinder Chadha and Meera Syal. And I mean, it's just one of those films that sort of evokes memories of, I guess, going to the seaside and things for me as well. On 2 levels. One, I remember like these summer trips that we would go to through like mosque classes, like, you know, like Sunday school, we had like mosque classes. And I remember Butlins was one of the destinations. And some other, and everyone would just pile onto a bus, and it was all women. And it's kind of one of these memories that stays with me. And the other thing is this idea of going, when I was younger, this idea of going to the seaside and not seeing that many people that look like you, and you knew that your family kind of really stood out, and we all always took our own food with us and things like that. And so this film kind of helped me feel seen in many ways. And there's a lot going on in it. It's like all these lives are colliding, and it just all happens to take place at Blackpool, which is the most random destination for it to happen in.
And this was Gurinder Chadha's debut film, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I'm pretty certain this was her first. And do you know what? It's got an amazing cast. Yeah. And I went and I looked on IMDb to see what have they all done since then, and it's really depressing because you're just thinking this was a huge number of actors that could have gone on to make amazing films and had amazing careers, but the work just wasn't there for them. And I think the most that they've done are like soaps or children's shows. but really they should have been making other films.
Yeah. Do you think, like, this is coming off the subject of summer slightly, but it's interesting what you're saying. Do you think today, obviously Gurinder Chadha has become a kind of force in filmmaking, but what you're saying there about the lack of opportunities for the actors in the film, is that still the case today? Are things moving?
I think things are moving. I wish they were moving faster. And I wish television was moving faster, because I think with film, you have more opportunity in terms of being bolder. Whereas I think television is still very behind in ensuring that talent is consistent through every role almost. So, for example, there's a primetime show coming on soon with an all South Asian cast, but the writer is white. And so you're just like, but that's a prime opportunity for talent to come out throughout. So it's really mixed, but film is definitely much better than it used to be.
Yeah. Well, Baji on the Beach, brilliant pick to start us off. Your number 3. Debbie, what's your number 3 summer cinema essential?
Yeah, well, I also found this really hard. First of all, just to come up with just 3. My list have also made the cut. It's quite long. So I'm going to give these it's in no particular order. But number 3 is the most recent one, which is Little Miss Sunshine, which is one of my all-time favourite films. For me, it's so if you've not seen the film, it centres around Olive, who is entering. She's quite a enthusiastic beauty pageant entrant. And she manages to get through to the finals. One of the contestants drop out, and I think the famous quote is something to do with diet pills, which I just think is just brilliant. And her whole family sort of pile into this minivan and make their way to the competition. And it really is. The family are. What's really good about it, it's really quite dark humour. There's like a lot of really funny things in this film. But there's also quite a lot of dark and tragic things as well, but it's just so beautifully played out on quite a tightrope, which is just lovely. So yeah, that's probably one of my all-time favourite films. I really do love it.
It's years since I've seen it. What do you think in particular made it like the summer pick for you? Is it just the fact that it's like got sunshine in the title?
That helps, and the lovely yellow van helps as well.
Yeah.
The setting of it is very typically like they're driving across America. It's all blue skies and lovely, and it also sort of like gives me that sort of feeling of when I was younger, being packed in a car and driven into Wales as well, in that sort of confined space for your family for 12 hours or whatever. It felt like longer than 12 hours. It felt like 3 days sometimes, and there was certainly an element of that I sort of recognise as well, and it's during that time of the year when you're surrounded by your family. Again, quite similar to what we're experiencing just now. Yeah. We're all, such in close quarters with our family. Those of us that are lucky enough to be in that situation. So probably even more so than now, it feels quite typical of a summer film because of that experience of 20th century being so strange.
It's a really funny film. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
carry on.
I was just going to say, for me, it's all about Olive and Grandad. What a relationship that is. It's just so cute. Although I do love our relationship with my brother as well. It's the relationships that are really, really sort of key for me. And it sort of makes me think of my childhood as well, being, there's quite a big age gap between me and my brother as well. And there was quite a lot of similarities watching that. It reminded me of being summer, being stuck with my little brother, and thinking about that.
There's a theme coming through here, isn't there, with these things? It's a kind of general British.
It's quite like there's a lot of nostalgia with summer films. Well, certainly for me anyway. I felt I think we were talking earlier about you can't help but look back at your own time the first time you watched it, what your sort of experience was.
Okay, cool. I'm going to do mine. My number three. Okay, it's a bit different. My number 3 is My Neighbor Totoro, the Studio Ghibli Hayao Miyazaki film from 1988. So obviously, I didn't have a Japanese childhood, but so many of the Studio Ghibli animations capture a sense of the beauty of summer, and I think this is the one that does it best. And in particular, it takes you back to a childhood perspective of summer. Unfortunately, when I was little, I didn't befriend a giant forest-dwelling magical creature like the sisters do in this film. But I did love exploring forests and imagining other worlds. And this film taps into exactly what that felt like. That childhood experience of no responsibilities, long sunny days, and the freedom to wander. I grew up in Yorkshire, and like in Glasgow, there's lovely green countryside never far away. And I don't know another film that so perfectly captures that idyllic childhood experience of summer. It really powerfully reminds you what it felt like when you were 6 or 7 and nothing mattered, and you could just be outside and love it in the sunshine. Have you guys seen My Neighbor Totoro? Do you like it?
I've got to bit, Paul. I haven't seen it, but based on that description, I'm going to go watch it next.
Oh, you love it.
A while ago,
I don't want to watch right now.
my niece who stays with me, she's 5 and she's been working her way through the Studio Ghibli movies and she's absolutely loving them. And actually, when the sun is out, her and her wee brother, who's 2.5, you could just leave them in the garden. And it's exactly that. They'll just be making up their own things, pulling leaves off trees and pretending they're magic, and sometimes just doing complete imaginary play. And yeah, it is, again, nostalgia. You're like, oh, I used to do that when I was a kid, and I used to make this thing up. And I remember growing up, and we used to have this little sort of lane that connected some of the houses, and we used to pretend there was this big giant monster at the end. I used to dare each other to cycle down and back up, and that's what Studio Ghibli does, I think, is it makes you remember that aspect of your imagination that sometimes goes a little bit dormant the older you get, and makes you go, do you know what, you should use this more. We need it right now, especially.
Yeah, definitely. And it takes a rare talent, I think, to be able to get back into that childhood mindset when you're an old, jaded individual. But me, exactly, he can do it. And My Neighbor Totoro, and it's always hugely popular whenever we play it at GFT. So I can guarantee that we will have My Neighbor Totoro back on GFT screens at some point in the future. Okay, we've had a little recommendation here from Cameron Tom. He says, a good wee summer movie is Saving Mr. Banks. That's the Mary Poppins real life behind the scenes story about Mary Poppins, isn't it? With Tom Hanks. I've not seen it.
I've not seen it either, no.
Either.
Cameron, tell us more. We've not seen it, so tell us what's great about it.
One of the ones I've always meant to watch. I've always also been on my list, and I just haven't got there yet.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Number 2, Raisah, what's your number 2?
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. I was stuck between my number 1 and number 2 to say which is which. So I'm just going to say Before Sunrise, Richard Linklater. So when I watched this film, I watched this and I watched Before Sunset, one after the other, and then I watched it every day for like a week. Because I just wanted to be lost in this world of conversation. And I mean, very guilty. I love films with a lot of dialogue. I love walking and talking films, and I think it's an absolute talent to be able to make a film like that and make it good. And I just think that there's so many moments in this where you just kind of stop and you think and you kind of reflect back on your own life. And the first film is set in Vienna. And it's just so beautiful as well. So in a way, it's like now when we can't travel, watch it and you feel like maybe you've gone on holiday a little bit. And the performances from Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke are just outstanding. And I mean, all of that is because they all wrote the script together. And so you can absolutely see that this is a work of complete collaboration. As a filmmaker, I love that. I love having almost everyone on board right at the start, because it's like this is our film. It's not mine. It's ours, and we should have that kind of collective feeling towards it. And just if I could make a film like this in the future, I'd be happy.
Oh man, I'm right with you on Before Sunrise. Absolutely love it, and it really does put you right in that moment, doesn't it? You're just right there, living that moment with them. And I actually rewatched Before Sunrise and Before Sunset and Before Midnight at the beginning of lockdown. So yeah, I was like, oh man, this is
great choice.
Before Midnight's in Greece. So you've got like that one in Greece, Before Sunset in Paris. Like you know, it's kind of like torture really in lockdown watching these movies.
But you wonder where's the next one going to be set, because they are talking about a fourth one, and I can't imagine what the next setting will be, and it has to be somewhere just as beautiful, because it just keeps it. And the other thing it makes me think is how easy is it to do that train journey? You know, like Ethan Hawke's character's doing, he's just traveling Europe by rail. What's going to happen next year? Will we be able to go on our own wee train journeys, or is it going to be much more complicated?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, at the beginning he goes, "Oh, I'm just traveling around Europe," and you're like, "You lucky." Yeah. Debbie, do you feel the same about?
That would have been one of my picks as well. And again, I know I keep talking about nostalgia, but it just puts me back to a certain age of first watching that film, and again watching it again and again and again, and just thinking Julie Delpy was the most fabulous thing that I'd ever seen or watched. I mean, I wanted to be her at a certain age. And it's funny. The more we were talking about the films that are set in these fabulous, sunny, lovely, beautiful locations that none of us can go to just now. There does seem to be a bit of a theme occurring here. But yeah, no, fantastic choice.
Indeed. Okay, what's your number 2 then, Debbie?
My number 2, right? Okay. Oh, difficult to decide. Okay, I think I'm going to go for Point Break, 1991 version. Obviously, no offense to anyone. Apparently, Point Break. What a film! It's the ultimate action movie. It's so 90s. It just defined a bit of a generation. And you know, I think if you were to read the what the film is to anyone just now, you know, they might think, oh, like, you know, it's an FBI agent that, you know, goes undercover in a gang of surfers. It does sound completely ridiculous, but it pulls it off. It's got everything you want. It's got comedy, it's got action, drama, some of the best and worst hairstyles anyone's ever seen. I'm not going to talk about Patrick Swayze's mullet, but I feel like it does deserve a special mention. I mean, it was just something special. It's just everything.
His blonde highlights.
His blonde highlights. He's looking pretty
savage. Right there, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like 38 or something. He did that film. He looks amazing. But yeah, one of the best. And I think Catherine Bigelow, just the stunts in that film. It's just, if you've not watched it, I mean, there's the Johnny Utah, it's Keanu Reeves plays Johnny Utah, who's this very straight-laced, stiff FBI agent. Which is completely against you think Keanu Reeves that time, he'd just done Bill and Ted, which is obviously not very straight-laced and stiff. And then Patrick Swayze's this really cool surfer dude who's, you know, a bit of a guru. And then you've got Gary Busey, who's this more rough and ready type cod. So the combination between all of them is quite interesting. But I think Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves are just on screen together amazing. And I think, you know, you either really loved one or the other one. I was always in the Keanu Reeves camp myself, but, you know, looking back now, I can see the more the Patrick Swayze side of things. But yeah, it's got a bit of everything in there, and I absolutely love it. And it just makes me think of being a certain age and watching that film with my friends. And again, just, you know, I'm just going to say the skydiving finale. And if you watch the film, you'll understand. And just, oh, God.
Yeah. No, I mean, Catherine Bigelow, she did a lot to define 90s action cinema. And there's a really good section actually in Mark Cousin's Women Make Film documentary where he breaks down the petrol station sequence in Point Break that runs into the foot chase where Keanu Reeves is chasing Patrick Swayze through the houses and stuff. And it really sort of highlights her skill in being able to put the camera in the right place, show you exactly what's happening in lots of complicated action.
Oh, it's in that full section. It starts with the petrol station, and you go into the car chase, and then the chasing, you know, the lead of the President's gang. I'm not going to give away any spoilers in case anyone's not seen it. It's just amazing. It's just one of the best stunt films. It's the ultimate action movie. And frankly, if we don't like it, we can't be friends anymore. I'm just going to put it out there. That's it. Sorry.
You were thinking of putting it in your list as well, weren't you, Raisah?
Yeah, I mean, I love Keanu Reeves. I've always loved Keanu Reeves. He was one of my very first sort of like favorite actors. And I just think it's exactly what you're saying, Debbie. It's such a brilliant action film. I don't naturally run to watch action films, but it's one of those ones where I go, I could easily just watch this over and over again. And the fact that it's a female director makes you go, why do we not have more female action directors? Like, they're so good at it. And
absolutely.
I mean, it's slightly changing now, but, you know, Catherine Bigelow should have been doing a lot more than she has been doing. She should have been given a lot more opportunities to make more big action films. And you know, it's not just action, it has story as well.
Yeah.
And so you're not just watching, I feel like action movies these days tend to just be all action, and you always come out of it feeling like there's no story in there. But Point Break absolutely has a story, and you totally just, you fall in love with Patrick Swayze's character, you totally feel for Keanu Reeves' character, and you follow the entire thing. I don't know anyone that's watched it and been disappointed. And I never watched the sequel or the remake or whatever it was. I just point blank refused. I was like, no, not happening.
Me neither. No. I just refused to do it. But no, you're right. It's out about, you know, Kathleen Bigelow and, like, you know, what she did. And it's funny, actually, we rewatched it, my husband and I, not that long ago, and he didn't realise it was Kathleen Bigelow, which, you know, he got a 5-minute lecture about that after.
But it stays a lot. I think that's quite common, though, because I think often people don't realise it, and then at that point they start to question, why has she not been doing a lot more?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right, because it has got a really, really strong story to it. It's a really solid, good summer film, I think, and it's fun as well. It's really fun. You know, and Keanu Reeves, what's not to love?
Exactly. By the way, I saw that he's doing these camming help you sleep videos soon as part of this whole thing that a bunch of celebs are doing. It's just been commissioned, so look out for that.
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow. I can tell that's going to be popular, So Point Break is also notoriously difficult to get the rights to play in a cinema. So
really?
Now you've mentioned it, Debbie, it just makes me feel bad again, because it's like, yes, we'd love to have a Point Break screening at GFT as part of a summer movie season, but it's one of those ones where it's just a tricky rights situation. So Catherine Bigelow, if you're watching, we'd love to go Point Break GFT.
Oh, I believe in you, Paul. You can
Thanks.
No better.
Right, I'm going to change gear now for my number 2 choice, which is a recent film, The Florida Project, by the director Sean Baker from 2017. So this is kind of the equal opposite of my first pick, because it also centers on a child's point of view. But 6-year-old Mooney lives a pretty precarious existence with her mum, Haley, in a motel right next to Disney World in Florida. Their life is far from carefree. But the film follows the ups and downs of their poverty-stricken existence over one summer. And it features a really warm performance from Willem Dafoe as the motel manager. But the reason it makes my essential list for summer is just all about the way it looks. This film is so beautifully shot by director Sean Baker and cinematographer Alexis Zabe. It's just all about the Florida light, from shots of Mooney and her troublemaking pals walking past deserted shops to a wonderful warm dusk moment as Bobby, the manager, lights up a cigarette at the end of the day. And I think Sean Baker, who also made Tangerine, he's just got this way of finding beauty in the midst of, you know, desperate situations, troubled lives. He creates beautiful images that are compassionate as well. It's not about kind of creating something where they're making beauty at the expense of the characters, but seeing something beautiful in difficult characters. And it's the light, you know, the sun lights it all, and that's what makes it an essential summer movie for me. I absolutely love The Florida Project. Raisah, you just watched it, didn't you? You said you just watched
it. When I saw it was on your list, I was like, I've been meaning to watch that for ages. And absolutely, the minute it started, I was just struck by how beautiful it was. Even the choice of color of the whole location, it was all purple. And it's one of those things you're like, that's a really interesting choice, but it works so well. Working with kids can be so challenging, but those actors are just phenomenal. The little girl who plays Mooney, she just, I honestly, I just think how can you have so much talent at such a young age? And she carries the film. It's all told through her perspective, and we are absolutely with her kind of throughout it. And you know, she's not uncomplicated herself. There are points where you're like, you're just being a bratty little kid, and you're, you know, there are points where you're just like, what are you doing? But that, no spoilers, but there's a moment where she just breaks down, and my heart just went. I just was like, she needs a hug. She just needs someone to hug her right now. It's gorgeous, and the casting is just brilliant. Willem Dafoe is great. Caleb Landry Jones is in it, and he's a really interesting actor. I think he's doing a lot of really interesting stuff right now, and actually really well cast as Willem Dafoe's son. I thought I was like, that's really good casting, actually. But yeah, if you've not seen it, I would say absolutely, it's a good one. Yeah,
totally. And I've seen that Cameron has followed up his recommendation. So before we come on to our number one choices, Cameron says Saving Mr. Banks is a warm, wonderful film that follows P.L. Travers, the author of the books Mary Poppins, and how Walt Disney tries his hardest to get it from paper to screen. I think it's something about the relationship between Travers and her father and how precious and special it was. Also, it's filmed in and around Australia and California, so it's constant sunshine. Yeah, I mean, you know, we go to these American movies to get some vitamin D that we are missing in our life here in Scotland. So yeah, thanks so much, Cameron. That's a great little write-up, and we'll all be checking out Saving Mr. Banks. Right, okay. We've come to our number one choices. So, Raisah, what's your essential summer movie?
Okay, so I'm throwing in some Tennessee Williams and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, starring Paul Newman and Elizabeth Taylor and Bert Ives, directed by Richard Brooks, I'm sure. And you know, this is another one of these films where I watched it and then I had to watch it again and I had to watch it again, just because the performances are so phenomenal. The way Elizabeth Taylor and Paul Newman just play off each other, it's masterful. And it's so contained. And in many ways, it's like watching a play on screen, because you've got such few locations, but they do so much with so little. And it's very layered. There's a lot in there that you can unpack, and you really want them to go deeper into, and they don't, for a very good reason, because it's better for you to go away thinking about that yourself. But it is set in Mississippi in the summer, and you can tell just from the colors on screen how hot it is, and they refer to that quite a lot, like how hot it is. And it's just, if you've never seen it, please watch it. You will absolutely fall in love with it.
Yeah, and when we were starting thinking about summer movies, Tennessee Williams came to mind immediately for me as well. And I was really pleased when I saw that you had chosen that. I was thinking Streetcar Named Desire. Also, it's very much that kind of Southern, which Tennessee Williams uses like as the setting, but then also it's kind of all of his characters seem to be boiling over in something inside them. And I think that, you know, it's captured so perfectly in that film. And
that's a really good way to describe it, Paul. Boiling over, like I really like that. That's perfect.
And you just can't forget Burl Ives. What's his line? Mendacity. That's what he said.
I absolutely agree, though. I mean, I think this is Elizabeth Taylor. I personally think this is her best ever. But honestly, it's my all-time favourite one. I just think she's fabulous. And then you've got Paul Newman, you know, just looking like some sort of Greek god, you know, on screen. And it's even more fascinating, I think at that time, Elizabeth Taylor's third husband, who just died, I think halfway through shooting the film. So she actually came back to film the scenes whilst that was ongoing. And I think that kind of feeds into it slightly as well. But no, it's definitely like, I mean, it's a great pick for summer. Everything about it. Good choice. I love it all, like choices so far.
Yeah. Mark McDonald here in the comments completely agrees. Streetcar and Cat, absolute classics. And he's also recommended Stealing Beauty as a good summer film. I remember that's the Bertolucci film, isn't it, with Liv Tyler?
Yes, so it is.
Very much like you can see it. They're these films that take you to that place, don't they? Like You're like,
I've completely forgotten about that film. Good show, Mark. I've totally forgotten about that one. We got a comment from Alison Gardner there. Just tell us the line is lies and mendacity.
oh, thank you.
Thank you, Alison.
CEO Alison, thank you very much. Also complimenting our fantastic talk. So thanks, Alison. Okay, Debbie, it's your turn to choose your number.
Right, okay. So my number one choice, I'm going to go for what is, I think, the original summer blockbuster, and that's Jaws, which is now 45 years old. Now,
Wow.
I know, 45. I get a shock when I realised that when I was looking at it this morning. Yeah, I mean, to me, I just cannot think of summer without thinking of Jaws. Yeah, and I don't care if you look back and the shark looks fake. I don't care about any of that. For me, what makes Jaws like it's a true classic that will never go away. Is that even to this day now, if I go in the sea, I still am really nervous. And that is the power of this film. It's just, it's created this, ongoing fear of people like who are genuinely a little bit terrified of the water. You can't help it. And that's such a long-lasting thing. I can't think of any other film that's had that effect as Jaws had. I mean, it's really, really well done. I mean, I got the chance to actually watch it for the first time on screen actually at GFT, even before I worked at GFT. And I would say that the one thing about Jaws is that it's something that's meant to be watched in a cinema. You're meant to watch it with other people. And everyone watching this just now has probably watched it at TV. It's just not the same. You need to watch it in the cinema. I just think, it's just fantastic.
Maybe it's a Glasgow Film Festival event. Film, maybe.
That was on beach. I mean, February I could beach is lovely.
We could put an indoor beach. Why not?
I'm for this one. No, it isn't. You can't talk about Jaws and not talk about the soundtrack as well. Yeah. I mean, it just goes hand in hand. It's part of the legacy of the film as well. And it's actually rewatched it quite recently, and the soundtrack's got this amazing ability to bring suspense, but also terror. There's actually a lot of horror soundtrack in that. And I think because of the problems that the mechanical shark, who I believe was called Bruce, he caused a lot of issues in the filming, as we all know. And more so it's about what you don't see rather than what you do see. Just builds this continual panic of where is it? It's just, I can't, for me, I think back to the first time I watched it and thinking, I am never going in the water ever again. It's not happening.
So, Debbie, I think you're missing an opportunity to promote an upcoming Glasgow Film Festival.
Thank you very much for that reminder. Yeah, well, it's funny because we were talking about, what films would you include as your GFT Summer Essentials, and then we're actually showing Jaws as part of our Sound and Vision Driveway, which is taking place. It starts on the 30th of July, and Jaws is one of those films as well, along with a list of other films. So if you do want to see the big film, and I highly, highly recommend that you do because it's just completely different. Go onto the Glasgow Film Festival website and have a look. In fact, go onto the GFT website. It's on there too.
Thanks, Debbie. The drive-in version of Jaws is going to be unmissable. I assume, Raisah, you're a fan of Jaws too.
I mean, it's been ages. I don't think I've seen Jaws 2. But no, it's been ages since I've seen it. I think I remember coming across it on telly once and going, what is this? And the first thing I heard was the music. And I must have been very little when it was on. But, Jaws is the reason that you have Shark Week, isn't it? You have this whole genre of shark films now. And that all came from Jaws. And I think it's really, your point around the music, I think is really important because people often forget how important sound design and music is in film. And actually, this is a prime example of that being the reason that it creates that much terror and that much suspense and why you're still scared of the water now is because you remember the sounds and more so than the mechanical shark. And that's the power of film. It's not always visual. Sound is so much a part of it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think at the time there was this sort of when it was made, sort of movies were going back to using more sort of modern sounds, and Spielberg made a conscious choice of I want to go back to 30s, 40s music. I want that sort of soundscape of an orchestra, and he obviously had a really big budget, so that was fine. And what came out of it is sort of it's a classic movie soundtrack that's going to be really ever hard to top because it is just so iconic. But yeah, I mean, what's not to love? It's a killer shark that everyone, nobody's safe. it doesn't matter who you are. You could be like poor little Alex, what's his name, floating out in the water in his Lilo, how he's gone like that. But it's got a bit of everything. It's got the corrupt politician who doesn't really care about, doesn't care about people's health or what's the right thing. He just wants to keep, the business economy going, which sounds a little bit familiar.
Yeah.
It's quite relevant to this summer, actually.
That's what David Gattens, our colleague, said in the comments here. He said he watched it on July 4th. Very odd feeling watching it in the context of the current health emergency. And yeah, I think that's true. That's something I've heard from others rewatching it currently, that like, wow, you think Jaws is this 45-year-old movie, and it is, but it still speaks very relevantly,
Yeah. But yeah, that's my number one summer choice, which, it's not summer unless you've watched Jaws.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what the GFT audience believes too, because we have it every year and people come out to see it. It definitely is. It's one of those movie experiences you have to have. Okay, my number one is, okay, so when talking about movies set in summertime, it's hard for me to put anything above Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee's film from 1989, the story of a Brooklyn neighborhood on the hottest day of the summer. A day when the ever-present racial tensions explode into anger, violence, murder, and a riot. It's as relevant and invigorating to watch it now as it was 31 years ago. It was Spike Lee's third film after She's Gotta Have It and School Days. And I think it's the moment where his genius totally crystallized. The film is a blast of creative, political, righteous energy that fizzes with passion and conviction. You can't take your eyes off it. I think it's a thrilling film to watch unfold, and the story it tells feels totally vital, and unfortunately continues to be like relevant in every detail to our lives and the world now. And in terms of summer, the production design and location shooting put us right in the middle of this sweltering summer day. It's a completely different kind of film, but the Tennessee Williams movies we were talking about, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, it's a similar sort of pressure cooker feeling, which is one of those aspects of summer that cinema can do so well. So as with everything Spike Lee makes, it's not a naturalistic film. There's moments that pull us out of reality and remind us that we're watching a film. But that's another of the things I just love about Spike Lee. His medium is cinema. He doesn't try and pretend he's showing us a documentary. He just uses all his creativity to get to some truth about humanity and Do the Right Thing. Yeah. Every time I watch it, I'm like energized, angered, and it does all the things that I think a great movie should do. So yeah, that's why it's my number one.
Well said. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great pick. I watched it a couple of days ago when I saw your list, and I was like, right, I need to. It's one of the ones that I've never had a chance to get around to watching. I have a massive list of films, and yeah, exactly everything you're saying. You're just like, gosh, this is still so relevant today, and why is it still so relevant today? Mm-hmm. It really shouldn't be. And I mean, Spike Lee is a force. I just think anyone that's directing and acting in the same film is just, absolutely knows their vision and absolutely knows the type of film that you want to make. And the cast, the ensemble is just so brilliant. I think it was Rosie Perez's debut film, and Martin Lawrence as well, maybe.
That's right.
So lots of really kind of great talent in it, and you just kind of, and it's really nice to see actually they have had careers. They've had most of the people in the film. You kind of know where their career has gone, and most of them have had really great careers. But yeah, it's, if you've not seen it, then watch it, I would say.
Yeah. And again, I sound like a broken record now, but it's another one that I'm just very keen to get back on the big screen at GFT. It was re-released actually for its 30th anniversary last year. We did a bunch of screenings, and it's one that people continue to want to come out and see, and that makes me very happy. Okay, so those are our essential summer movies. 9 films that we think make great use of their summer settings to create unique, atmospheric evocations of the season. And yeah, before I ask if you've got any other mentions, we had a few picks sent in on Twitter in advance, which I wanted to read out. There's some that we've already mentioned, but Alex Stevo on Twitter said, he sent us a list: Do the Right Thing, Little Miss Sunshine, The Sandlot. That was one of yours, wasn't it? The Sandlot.
Yay, I love The Sandlot.
Almost Famous, Body Heat, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Goonies, Sexy Beast, Niagara, Picnic at Hanging Rock, and Stanley Kubrick's Lolita from 1962. So a whole bunch of suggestions from Alex Stevo. And then this one, which I've seen come up a few times, and I even thought about, Ruth Media said, I suppose Call Me By Your Name is a summer movie. It definitely is, Ruth. Call Me By Your Name, it's sort of, it's one of those movies that you watch and you're like, I'm there. And I want to be there. It's just that sun-dappled Italian villa that you just want to be at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we finish, do either of you, well, I know you do, what are the other films that you really wanted to include on your list? Raisah, what were yours that just missed the cut?
So one of the ones that definitely just missed was another Paul Newman one, The Long Hot Summer. And again, it's a classic. It's the first one he did with Joan Woodward, who he would then go on and marry not long after the film, actually, and this is how they met. So they moved fast in old Hollywood days. And The Talented Mr. Ripley was another one. Again, you know, you want to be there. You absolutely feel the warmth. So Point Break was also on my list, which we've discussed. And one that reminds me of, I guess, kind of being a bit younger is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, which is a bit random and very teen. But actually, that cast as an ensemble are really good, and you want to be in Greece. So
Brilliant.
Those are mine.
Excellent. And we're getting a couple more coming through on the comments as well. Alison mentioned Cool Hand Luke, which, I mean, you know, put Paul Newman in a vest in the sun, and I mean, who doesn't want to see that?
It's a summer film. Yeah.
And then Emma Denise said, I Know What You Did Last Summer. 90s
Excellent choice, Emma.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Tell us yours.
I really wanted to put in the 7-Year Itch. Which, it would be, I think, a really good one, a good summer one. Quite similar, you have that feeling of like being in Manhattan. It's really warm, and then there's this just, you know, really amazing thing of like all the women go away and the men go a bit nuts, and then Marilyn Monroe just comes in and just lights up the screen every time she walks on, and it's a really, really funny, clever film.
She's so funny, and I think it's Marilyn Monroe's best comedy performance.
Yeah.
Like, she's really, really funny in it.
Yeah, I thought it's a really, really clever film. I remember watching it the first time being far too young and not really getting it, and then watching it a few years later, then, you know, really understanding it. So that was one of them. Dazed and Confused, which is another one of my favourites. I wanted to, you know, I remember the first time watching it thinking, oh, great, when I'm older, I have a really cool car to drive. And, you know, it turned out just being like, you know, a Metro, so it wasn't as cool. It was less, you know, funky. And the other one was Clueless, which is slightly out there, but Clueless is a really, really underrated film. It really is.
Great.
I love it. I
don't know if it's underrated, Debbie. People love it. It's great.
People should love it, Paul. They really should. It's just like, you know, everyone who drives at Beverly Hills, I'm like, I mean, it just couldn't be any more summer. You know, it's one of my topics.
Excellent. Well, I've noticed Mark McDonald here has just mentioned Rear Window, which was one of my wish I could have added to the list. Rear Window is a great summer movie. Again, you know, it's got that thing of just, well, it's like we've come back to so much. It's about being stuck in one place, man. But also it's so hot, the intense heat and the colors. Oh, it's great. I also wanted to throw in Celine Sciamma's film Tomboy, which is another of those films that just happens in such a lovely sort of idyllic summer sense that it evokes. And then, did you guys ever see My Summer of Love, the 90s film, British film from Pavel Pawlikowski? He went on to make Cold War and Ida. But
no, I love Cold War though. Cold War was one of my favorites.
My Summer of Love is a great little drama with Emily Blunt. It was an early role for Emily Blunt, and British actress Natalie Press, who hasn't been in as much, and it's got Paddy Considine in it as well. But it was hard to think of that many British summer films. So, Days of the Bagnold Summer is, a rare example. But My Summer of Love is another one, I think, that really captures a sort of hazy summer in England in a really unique way. So, yeah, I would throw that in too. And there's a few more. Let's see what else has come here. Adam's Family Values. What?
Is that a summer film?
They go to summer camp. Actually, excellent point.
Oh yeah, they do. They do.
Yep,
that's a good point. Yep.
Great
It's a very goth summer film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There's room for them. Too. Brilliant. Sorry.
The Rear Window is also shown at the Sound and Vision Drive-In as well. So if you want to see Rear Window,
right? It's Clueless as well.
Clueless as well, yeah. You could tell actually. You love these films.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for watching. That is the end of our Cinema Essentials Summer Movies chat. As I mentioned at the start, we have a survey from our funders, BFI Film Fields Connected, which is linked in the description for this show. Please, could you take a minute to click on that and fill it in? We'd really appreciate it. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time, Friday, 31st of July, with 2 more guests to discuss Cinema Essentials music movies, beginning with a discussion of the new film, How to Build a Girl. So start thinking now. Let us know your favorite music movies. That could be concert films, fiction films about bands, dramas that center on music. And get in touch at our Twitter and Facebook at Glasgow Film, or email us your picks at feedback@glasgowfilm.org. So that's us. Thank you, Raisah and Debbie, so much for joining me today. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.